Sometimes, a single moment can change everything. For Noah Brown from Alaskan Bush People, that moment came with a diagnosis that would shatter his world. Life in the wilderness had always been about survival, battling nature, storms, and isolation. But this was a fight of a different kind. It wasn't against the cold or hunger, but against heartbreak and loss. For years, the Brown family had faced one tragedy after another. Yet this time, it was deeply personal for Noah. The news he received didn't just test his strength. It forced him to say goodbye to the life and love he once knew. Fans who had followed his journey on the show were shocked when Noah appeared online. His eyes filled with pain, his voice trembling as he shared his truth. The strong, quiet man who had always seemed unshakable now looked broken. His wife, once his partner in every adventure, sat beside him, distant, calm, and cold. What had happened to their love? What could have driven such a wedge between two people who once promised to face the world together? The answers were painful and complex, buried beneath years of illness, family drama, and emotional exhaustion. Noah's heartbreaking announcement came in the form of a short video posted online. It wasn't a flashy production or a scripted moment for television. It was raw, real, and difficult to watch. Sitting beside his wife, he tried to hold back tears as he spoke about the end of their marriage. His wife, however, seemed detached, as if she had already made peace with her decision. The distance between them was obvious, not just physical, but emotional. Viewers could feel the tension, the pain, and the silence that spoke louder than any words. Noah wanted to keep fans updated about their separation, but his wife quickly interrupted him. "No," she said firmly. "There will not be any updates." It was a clear sign that she was done with sharing their private pain with the public. For Noah, who had made a living by opening his life to viewers, this was a painful blow. His social media had become a space where he found support and comfort. But now it was a reminder of the life slipping away from him. What started as a marriage full of love and promise had turned into a story of silence, distance, and heartbreak. The world of reality television often blurs the line between personal life and public entertainment. For Noah and his wife, that line had vanished long ago. Their lives had been filmed, edited, and discussed by millions of viewers. What was once private had become part of a show, and every moment, from joy to grief, became public property. After Alaskan Bush People ended, Noah continued to share his family's life online, using social media as a source of income. But what kept him connected to fans also created cracks in his marriage. His wife wanted privacy. She wanted peace and a life away from constant attention. This difference became one of the biggest reasons behind their growing distance. Every emotional post Noah shared about his sadness brought him sympathy, but it also turned public opinion against his wife. She was blamed, insulted, and painted as the villain. The internet's harsh judgment made things worse. What was meant to be a personal healing process turned into a painful cycle of blame and misunderstanding. Their home, once filled with laughter and children's voices, became a quiet battlefield between privacy and publicity, two forces tearing their relationship apart. To truly understand Noah's pain, one must look deeper into his world, a world shaped by years of tragedy and family struggle. The Brown family had faced more sorrow than most could imagine. The heart of their suffering began in 2017 when their mother, Amy Brown, was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. The news was devastating. Doctors gave her only a 3% chance of survival. The family was heartbroken, and their world suddenly stopped. Noah, like his siblings, tried to stay strong for his mother, but inside, the fear of losing her tore him apart. The Browns had always presented themselves as survivors, a family that could endure anything. But this battle was different. Watching Amy fight for her life brought endless emotional pain. Even though she eventually went into remission, the cancer left permanent damage to her lungs. The family could never relax again. The shadow of illness always hung over them. For Noah, this fear of losing loved ones was constant. Every time the phone rang or someone felt sick, his heart would race. Living under that cloud of uncertainty slowly wore him down, affecting not just his spirit, but also his marriage. Just as the family tried to recover from their mother's illness, another tragedy hit. Noah's sister, Snowbird, affectionately called Bird, began suffering from severe abdominal pain. After medical tests, doctors discovered large tumors in her abdomen and on her ovaries. The entire family was thrown into panic again. Was it cancer? Would they have to relive the nightmare they'd just escaped? Bird faced an unimaginable decision. She could undergo a risky surgery that would prevent future cancer, but would also make it impossible for her to have children. It was a cruel choice no one should ever face. This wave of illnesses, surgeries, and emotional breakdowns took a heavy toll on everyone. Noah, already struggling to hold his marriage together, was now emotionally drained by his family's endless crises. The Browns were known as the Wolf Pack, but inside the pack was breaking apart. Between medical emergencies and growing emotional distance, the love and unity that once defined them began to fade. For Noah, the weight became unbearable. Every new tragedy felt like one more stone on his back, and soon, even love couldn't hold up under that pressure. What made matters worse was the hidden tension within the family. Behind the smiling faces and the image of unity, there were cracks. The biggest shock came when Noah filed a restraining order against his younger sister, Rain. The public couldn't believe it. A brother and sister who once appeared inseparable were now locked in a legal battle filled with painful accusations. Noah claimed that Rain's behavior had become erratic and dangerous. He even alleged that she was using hard drugs and had threatened him. The documents also included a disturbing claim that Rain had once offered their sick mother drugs to help with her pain. Whether true or not, the accusations shattered the family's reputation. The Brown family, once seen as strong and loyal, now appeared broken beyond repair. For Noah, the conflict with his siblings added another layer of sadness to an already collapsing world. His wife, who had already struggled to fit into the Brown family, found herself caught in the middle of chaos and resentment. The emotional environment became toxic, full of anger, mistrust, and endless judgment. From the start, Noah's wife was seen as an outsider. She wasn't part of the Brown family's world of wilderness survival and TV fame. Fans and even some family members viewed her with suspicion. Before she married Noah, she legally changed her name to Rain, the same name as Noah's younger sister, though spelled differently. To many, this seemed strange, even manipulative. Rumors spread that she had married Noah for fame and exposure on the show. These whispers followed her everywhere, creating tension that never went away. On social media, she was often criticized, accused of being controlling or fake. This constant negativity deeply affected her. It's hard to live in peace when the world keeps questioning your motives. Over time, the pressure to prove herself and the judgment from others built emotional walls between her and Noah. What started as love and trust slowly turned into defensiveness and resentment. Their marriage, once full of promise, began to feel like another survival challenge. But this time, the enemy wasn't nature. It was fame, family conflict, and the heavy burden of public opinion. It's painful to see how such a love story could end in heartbreak, because the way it began was beautiful. Before fame, before tragedy, there was a simple story of two people who found each other by chance. Years ago, a young woman named Ruth, now Rain, was traveling through Alaska when she met Noah Brown. He was quiet, creative, and deeply connected to nature. Everything about him felt genuine. They started a long-distance relationship, writing letters and talking whenever they could. In 2017, Noah proposed to her during a hike in Juneau, Alaska. They got married the next year in a small ceremony with close family and friends. It wasn't a big Hollywood wedding. It was humble, heartfelt, and full of love. Noah was the first Brown sibling to get married, and he often said it felt like a dream come true. They wanted a peaceful life, away from the cameras, focused on love and family. For a while, it seemed like that dream might come true. But in the years that followed, their happiness would be tested in ways neither could have imagined. After their wedding, Noah and Rain tried to build their own world, away from the chaos of family drama. They moved to Colorado, hoping for a quiet, independent life. They built a home together, welcomed two beautiful sons, Elijah and Adam, and for a short time, things seemed perfect. But life had one more cruel twist waiting. In 2020, a massive wildfire swept through Washington state. The Palmer Mountain fire destroyed hundreds of acres, including Noah and Rain's home. Everything they had built, their memories, belongings, and sense of safety, was gone. As the months turned into years, Noah's relationship with his family began to change in quiet but painful ways. The once inseparable wolf pack, which used to stand together through storms, started showing cracks. Conversations that used to be full of laughter became short and tense. Calls went unanswered, and visits became less frequent. The silence between family members was not just physical, it was emotional. Noah, who had always looked up to his father Billy Brown as a symbol of strength, found himself feeling abandoned in his moments of weakness. His wife Rain noticed the same, often saying that she could feel the emotional distance growing between them and the rest of the family. For Noah, it was heartbreaking because all he ever wanted was to keep that unity alive. But as his loved ones faced their own battles, it felt like the family bond that once gave them power had quietly faded away. The Alaskan Bush People were built on the idea of survival. But this time, the wilderness wasn't their greatest challenge. It was the emotional distance, the unspoken pain, and the weight of fame that tested their survival as a family. When cameras first began filming their lives, everything felt exciting. They were showing the world how to live freely, away from the noise of modern society. But over time, Noah realized that the cameras also created a new kind of cage. Every smile, every tear, and every argument was recorded and shared with millions. The show that once gave them a voice also took away their privacy. Even when Noah tried to express his pain, some viewers dismissed it as acting. That kind of misunderstanding cut deep because for him, the pain was real. He wasn't performing. He was living through a time when his family was falling apart. When Noah's first child was born, he thought everything would finally feel right again. Holding his newborn son, he saw a reflection of hope. A small life that gave him a reason to fight through his grief. He promised himself that his child would never grow up feeling the same kind of loneliness he had felt after Amy's illness and his father's passing. But reality has a way of testing even the strongest promises. Raising a child while coping with emotional pain was harder than Noah had expected. Nights were long and full of thoughts. About the past, about the family he lost, and about the uncertain future ahead. He often stayed awake, watching over his baby, wondering what kind of world he was bringing his son into. Rain stood by him, offering quiet strength, reminding him that family could still be rebuilt, even if it looked different from before. Together, they tried to create a home filled with peace, far from the noise of fame and public eyes. But peace didn't come easily. Every few months, old wounds reopened. Family disagreements made their way into headlines, and fans began taking sides. Noah, who only wanted privacy and understanding, found himself caught in the middle of public judgment. Every decision he made, from where he lived to how he raised his children, was questioned online. It became exhausting. People forgot that behind the television image was a real man dealing with pain, loss, and the pressure to protect his family's name. He tried not to respond, choosing silence over confrontation. But that silence came with its own cost. Inside, he carried the weight of unspoken emotions, guilt, sadness, and a longing for simpler times when the only thing that mattered was family, not fame. While Noah tried to rebuild his life, his sister Rain was quietly fighting her own battle. The loss of their father had left a deep scar on her heart, and she began struggling with her mental health. In her own words, she felt broken, carrying sadness she couldn't easily explain. Watching his younger sister go through that pain was difficult for Noah. He knew exactly how it felt. The numbness, the confusion, the endless cycle of pretending to be okay. But despite his attempts to reach out, the distance between them made it hard to connect the way they once did. Fame had changed everything. They were all trying to heal, but everyone healed differently. Some turned to work, others to silence, and a few simply drifted away from the spotlight altogether. Noah often reflected on how grief never truly leaves. It only changes shape. One day it's a quiet ache, and the next it's a wave that knocks you off your feet. Rain's struggle reminded him of his own darker moments, but it also gave him perspective. He realized that pain was not a weakness. It was proof of love. You only hurt deeply when you have loved deeply. He wanted his sister to understand that too. Whenever he spoke publicly about family or hope, his words carried a tone of encouragement, almost as if he were speaking directly to her. He believed that even though they were apart, the emotional bond between siblings could never truly break. They were all part of the same story, one that was still being written, even through pain. The Brown family's fame was both a blessing and a curse. At first, it gave them opportunities they could never have imagined. Viewers around the world admired their courage and independence. But as years passed, fame started to feel more